Hello, everyone. Welcome to our enlightening conversation today. We're just going to wait a couple moments and give people a chance to join live. So thanks for waiting. And I'm just going to share this on to
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our enlightening conversation.
Sorry. Oh gosh, how do I do that?
I'm just going to share this in our Abundant Creators group.
Sorry. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Just give us a moment and we'll get started here in a second. Okay, let's see. Awesome. Hi, Dyan. How are you?
Hey, Nazrah. I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. So good to have you here. Thank you all for being here with us today. So today we are talking on Dyan's favorite passion, which is diving into intuition. And she is an intuitive transformational coach. And she's here to share her passion with us and her gifts with us and to really help us learn how to tap into our intuition on demand, which I know is something that we all could use more of. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I'm excited to get to talk about it.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about how you got into this line of work and what you do, and how did you get into, developing your intuitive gifts?
Sure. Well, I probably have a story that a lot of people can relate to, but he just started out with a very, very dysfunctional childhood and a lot of childhood trauma. And I think that's a common path for a lot of us. Sets us on a path of seeking something different. And then like you, Nazrah, how in the world did that happen to us that we joined the Army? I just don't even know how that happened. But yeah, I spent 7 years in the Army and felt like that actually just exacerbated all this trauma. I think that's really common too. So after I came out of the Army, I was 29 and I was so incredibly anxious and disconnected from myself, and spent a few years like that until it was kind of a sort of my first awakening before I had any sort of spiritual practice. I'm like, holy shit, this is not how life is supposed to be. I feel terrible. And I think the thing that I really realized most of all is I am making horrible, horrible choices for myself in small moments and big moments. And that was really just eye-opening for me. So the whole process unfolded after that and started with me discovering meditation. Luckily, I was living in San Francisco and it was very accessible. So I started meditating a lot, as much as possible, exploring. And the thing is, it really, really helped with my anxiety. It helped me learn how to settle my body and start to feel some feelings, start to process, start to build some capacity. But I was just impatient. I wanted more, and I felt like I still felt disconnected and still self-doubt. I think that's very common when people have a lot of trauma. Just so much self-doubt and second guessing, and I just didn't feel like I knew myself at all. So the rest of the story is just kind of funny, I think, and perfect. And I remember there was an expression at the time, people called it Dharma hopping. I was just going to every meditation group I could find just to see what else I could learn. And I went to a meditation group one day. It was an interesting class about energy. And I just remember thinking, this is a little bit different. What are we doing here? There was nothing, no signs on the wall. There's no material, no kind of context. So I was talking to people after saying, they were inviting me to more meditation classes. I'm interested, but what is this place? And really probably almost fell over when they said it's a clairvoyance school. I did not know they existed. I was definitely still a skeptic at the time. So they had to convince me it wasn't a scam. And but that didn't take much because I was so curious. And really, like, this is the beginning of it, right? I just remember that sense of every cell in my body lighting up, right? I don't know if you guys who are listening have felt that. Just everything's lighting up. It's just a big full body yes. And so I can even feel it now as I say that. And I basically just couldn't sign up fast enough. So I signed up for this 1-year program. It was very affordable. They weren't taking a lot of money, and would go 3 times a week and practice opening these clairvoyant channels. So that's how I got into it. And so I developed, sort of opened all these channels, and was working for a while with giving readings and using this to serve other people. And that felt really good. Yeah, there's so much more I could say about that, but to be a little bit succinct. So at some point I was sort of sitting there thinking, but I'm still, this is great, but I still need a way to feel more connected to what's right for me and make choices for myself. And I was still struggling with that. So one day I just sat down and I said, okay, well, I've got all these capacities that are serving other people. How can they really serve me? Which was not something I've ever seen anybody teach. So I just sat down, determined, I'm a pretty determined person, until I figured it out. Really just sort of how to turn this process around. And yeah, I didn't have language for it at the time, but I got really excited once it started to really bloom and feel substantial and feel useful and help me settle and make decisions and have some sense of where I was going and why. So that was the beginning. And I, not long thereafter, just got really excited, but I got to teach other people to do this. So I started teaching it in a meetup right after that. So.
Wow, so you've had quite a journey from trauma to the military to meditation, and then kind of accidentally bumping into clairvoyant abilities and learning. And you spent a year learning, you said, and then you kind of developed your own like system, it sounds like, to use it for how to deepen into like using it for your own life instead of just helping others.
Exactly. It just, because I think that this is the biggest misnomer out there so on the one hand, it's frustrating, but it also just gets me really excited is, there's this sense or misnomer, misperception people have about intuition, that it's this information that occasionally drops in randomly if we're lucky, and hopefully I follow it. And if I don't, I just really screwed up. So it's not that way at all. So because I went from this other direction of developing these capacities, I can already see that it's always there. It's always accessible. We just really have to develop our own system of connecting to that information and then being open to it and understanding it. That's really important too.
So that's what you share with people. So it sounds like you help people dive into this and deepen into this and learn ways to access it immediately whenever you want to use it.
Absolutely. That's my passion is, just thinking back on the person I was who made horrible choices, or, and I've also been stuck, and I'm sure many other people can relate to this, being stuck in indecision. What do we call it? Analysis paralysis. Just what am I doing with my life? What's the bigger picture? What's the bigger context? And how do I make choices that I can really, another big thing that comes up is just, we all want this kind of embodied certainty that this is right. I know I was longing for that. And the only way I've ever been able to experience that is through this process.
Wow, that's amazing. So, so have you used this in specific areas in your life to really shift things? I mean, how can you give us some examples of when this has been useful for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's a process. It's a process, first of all, just to let everybody know, it's just to give you some context. It's a process of opening up these channels so that the information comes through substantially in a way that's useful and practical. So that's sort of part one. And then part two, really, it's a process of learning to trust it. That doesn't happen overnight, because I hear that over and over. I don't trust it. That's okay. It takes time, and I work with people too in ways that can help us build up trust. And so I've had to do that. And so I've had my own process of getting intuitive wisdom and not following it, and then really regretting it later. So it's been this whole process. But at this point in my life, I wouldn't do anything without really checking it out and just taking however much time I need to get really clear and certain. And so here's an example. So I guess it's been 8 months now. 8 months ago, I moved to LA. And why in the world did I move to LA? So this has been a really interesting process. And because it's been a process that's been evolving for me, this is just, I think it just gets more interesting over time. So I was living in the Bay Area. I'd been there for 20 years. I was pretty settled. There was really no reason to move. I had a beautiful home, a nice job. But I just started feeling in my body this sense of closure, complete. And it was kind of funny one way it would come through, because this intuition, and that's the fun part, is we can cultivate all these different ways to receive it. There's no one way. But it started coming through also in songs. I would be listening to songs on the radio and it would feel like I was watching the closing credits of a movie. But it was clear that something is coming to an end, and that it can take time for this to unfold. But I was so clear in my body, and that brought up fear, right? I'm sure that's a very common thing for people, but this is part of the process, is we have to learn how to separate the two. Here's a clear impulse. Something's come to an end and I need to make a change, and oh wow, that creates uncertainty and fear. And what's important at that point is really knowing ourselves, knowing our core wounds, our old patterns. So how does that, what core patterns and beliefs is that going to bring up for me? So I knew what that was bringing up for me at this point. Of course, it's bringing up sort of security issues for me. But anyway, so as this unfolded, and I'm holding the fear. I know that's a pattern or a belief that I hold, and I'm holding this sense of it's time to go. And so how it unfolded, I just sort of sat with that until I literally woke up one Monday morning, and it was now. So clear. I can feel it again in my body. So clear right now. That week, I was looking on Craigslist anywhere in the country. Sorry, this is getting into a long story. I'll try to make it a little shorter, but I was looking anywhere in the country and just had a few conversations. And literally by the end of the week, I had an apartment lined up. And it ended up, and as I look back in hindsight, when we follow this, we're held, we're supported. And so I ended up moving to the Sacramento area, just a little bit further east. And what it did is it gave me the opportunity to transition slowly. It helped me get my finances in order. It helped me set up a lot of things just by following that impulse. And now, okay, this place in Placerville, I'm going to go do this. And then I was in Placerville following my intuition until I heard again, now. And I had been thinking about LA for years. That had been building slowly. And so that's another piece, right? Is when we get this intuitive information, it doesn't always mean do it right now. I mean, you'll know, it'll tell you now. But this picture of LA had been coming for a while. And then there was a point where it said, now. And I took the plunge and I came down here without anywhere to live. And and it's still unfolding. And I think this is another important piece, right? Is intuition will always give us the next step. And sometimes it is what's accessible is a little bit bigger picture, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes that's part of the journey. So I have a little bit of a sense of why I'm here in LA, and I know there's still a lot more to unfold, and I'm trusting that.
Thank you for sharing your journey with this. So how do you recommend to somebody to start feeling into their intuition if there is this unclarity, if there is like, well, I don't know what to do. I'm in this situation right now, and maybe I don't even know what I want to do. I don't know where I'm supposed to go. I see other people doing things. How would someone tap into their intuition if they're not really sure what step they're supposed to take, and they can't really feel anything in as a clear, like, I'm going to go to LA, or I'm going to go here, or I'm going to go there?
Right. Well, the first thing is meditation. So, I know that can be a deterrent for some people. It can be challenging, but I will say this, your intuition can absolutely come through mind chatter. You do not have to be meditating to get intuition, but it will make it a whole lot easier. The thing is that, the most important thing is that intuition is not thinking. And so the easiest way to get really clear on what's my intuition versus a thought is to sit in meditation and just allow everything to get a little bit quiet. And so I think is if you're willing to meditate, it's going to make it 1,000 times easier. And there's no, I think in other spiritual traditions, right, there's all these prescribed ways to meditate. So when I teach this, I tell people get as comfortable as possible. You want to be alert, but get as comfortable as possible. There's no prescribed way to sit, but we just want to be able to get quiet. And then, so a couple things. It's this interesting mix of being active and surrendering. And what I mean by being active is I bring my questions, and I know that that's a practice that does get talked about in meditation, bringing our questions to meditation. But so I'll ask questions, and then we have to surrender. We have to just surrender, and because intuition, if we're out trying to grab it, likely we're going to grab thoughts, or this is the other thing that comes up a lot. If we're grabbing, and if people know what I mean, your potential is to grab a fear or to grab a desire that we have that's more on the mental level. But when we're just surrendering and we're allowing ourselves to just receive, then that's when we're likely to receive actually genuine intuition. So that's if you're willing to meditate and just slow down, bring your questions. I do think community is super helpful with this in terms of learning to trust it. That's why I love teaching it in groups, because as you hear other people's experiences, it'll expand your own sense of what's possible. And then the third thing, and this is where I come in, is the beauty is of having gone to clairvoyance schools. I've learned how to open all of these channels, and there's not just clairvoyance, that's the seeing ability. There's hearing, there's the clairsentience in the body. And recently, it's interesting, like 10 years later, I just had this really powerful experience of sensing that my claircognizance just massively opened up. That was pretty wild. So I think there's just particular ways of getting comfortable with learning to access all these ways that intuition can come in. And then what that does for me is it just gives me a better picture. It gives me more information. So I hope that those are some good next steps for people.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's really useful. So how would you help somebody, open up these channels? So how would you, I know that you do this. I know it sounds like a process, because you went trained for like a year learning how to do this, but how do you usually help clients, like your clients, deepen into themselves in this way if maybe they have no experience with this, or maybe some people, it seems like, do have experience with their intuition, but there's still a confusion. So they haven't really honed it in like a laser focus, like, okay, I know, and I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that brings up another point that I definitely wanted to mention today, because with this audience, so if my experience is, okay, so I went to psychic school and I learned how to open all these channels. But my experience is for people who've been meditating a long time, they do just naturally start to open up anyway. So I definitely wanted to say this, if you're someone who's been meditating for a while, maybe you're aware of it, maybe you're not, but just sense into if any of what I'm talking about feels familiar, because you probably already got some of it. And then I think the important thing is it can come through in so many different ways. So just being open to that. You might see images, you might hear it, you might feel in your body, it might be a combination. So just knowing that it can come in different ways. So that's if you've been meditating and you're already sensing some of that, know that this is what we're talking about. And the second group of people I also wanted to speak to here are empaths. So this is the definition of an empath, is your channels are wide open. And the challenge for empaths is, what the heck do I do with this? And how do I close it down when it's not feeling useful for me? So those are actually the skills that you want to focus on. So just wanted to mention that. And then back to this question about how do I help people with this? So, people have, of course, different levels of interest. So I just, when I'm doing transformational coaching, the essence of transformational coaching is I want to be different, or actually where it usually starts is I want my life to look different. Okay, but then we have to be different. And in order for us to be different, we have to know who we already are. So we got to come back here. So you can't even do that work without opening at least some amount to intuition. So so it's that, and then I get the other thing. So this, I'm sorry, a little bit roundabout way of answering your question, but the thing that for me that makes this so just deeply fulfilling for me is it's a doorway to presence too, because as I said, intuition can come through, it can come in over mind chatter, but it originates in presence. It's not thought, it's not fear. So so it's this doorway also to just seeing ourselves below thinking, or beyond, maybe I should say beyond thinking and beyond our wounding and our conditioning and our programmed beliefs. It's a way to also just experience who we really are. So that's kind of always how I start with clients, is let's really learn how to connect to who we really are, and then start developing this capacity to listen. So that's, something again that I recommend for everybody. If we just want to feel more connected to ourselves and more just a sense of, well, presence and more ease and peace. I think probably this whole audience is very familiar with that piece. And then there's part two. So then there's just much bigger ways to use this. So the kind of how I'm talking about, I've learned to use it to create the life that I want, to create a life that feels in alignment, that I feel like I'm where I need to be, doing what I should be doing, which I think we all want that. So that's the one way I've used it, and that's sort of the next level of teaching people to do that. And then the next level after that, which is again how I'm using it and where I think it's really powerful, is if you're in some kind of service profession. So if you want to be a coach or a facilitator or a therapist or a massage therapists in particular can really use these skills. Any kind of healer, facilitator, then I teach people how do we use these capacities to work effectively with your clients, because it can add so much to this transformational and healing work. And we can sense what our clients are feeling and needing in a moment. It just gives me this unlimited capacity to be attuned. I mean, probably everybody here, we've had that experience, right, of feeling how someone was misattuned. They weren't getting where we were, and you feel this kind of, especially when you're vulnerable, and it can feel so painful when you're vulnerable. And so it gives me this capacity to stay attuned. And, just as a service provider, to know that, to feel that, I can really hold a container and help facilitate transformation through that. So that was a long answer to your question. I don't know if I got to the heart of your question.
Yeah, no, I think that's great, because there's like so many layers to this of how deep it can go. And it sounds like there's kind of like a cultivating and really honing it, because it seems like there's kind of a practice or a learning, like skills you have to learn to really be able to decipher it, because it's always there, but then it's just the confusion is kind of what we have to see through, is what it sounds like. And then that, as you go more into deepening into it, is what you have more access to your own life and to helping others.
Exactly. Yes. So the key in the beginning is just allowing open, and actually what I call it is energy mechanics. And then I do things, I call it psychic calisthenics. So we just do all these little exercises to open things up. And it's like weightlifting, just exercising muscles in the beginning, getting all these channels to, because we all have them. That's another thing we haven't. Everybody has this. We just need to wake it back up. So we just do these little exercises to wake it back up, get it coming through. But then that's really kind of the easy part. Then the work is in holding it. What does it mean? And not mixing it up with my fears, with my biases, my stories, and my projections, whether it's for me or someone else. It's so important. And then not mixing it up with fear, really separating it out from fear.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. This has been so helpful. And so it sounds like you're really going to help people in this community too. You said you're going to be offering a free workshop to help people dive into this a little bit deeper this week. Would you like to share more about that?
Yeah, thank you. So I've been doing this for a long time, and it was just funny. Somebody asked me this question recently, because it was just sitting around thinking, what am I doing in life? And somebody asked this question: what would you do if you could only do one thing for the rest of your life and you could have no variety? And it was just so clear to me. I just love, I don't know, it's just so much fun teaching people how to access these capacities. So yes. So I would love to offer a free live workshop. We'll do it on Zoom, so it'll be interactive. And I decided just to do it twice because it's fun and I want to give as many people the opportunity to do it live as possible. So I'm going to do it both Thursday morning at 10 a.m. Pacific and also Saturday at 10 Pacific. And I'll be posting a link for you guys to register. And it's going to be very experiential. So just a lot of guided exercises and so you can play with accessing it in different ways. And we're going to do some psychic calisthenics. And then it's really important. So we'll have time for that too, for people to share a little bit of their experiences, because again, that's what helps broaden all of our sense of what's possible.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for contributing and for offering this to our community here. Yeah, I'm so excited for this. I really think this will be helpful for so many people, because it feels like, you know, there's kind of a sense right now of at least with people that I'm working with, of like really stepping into our purpose in deeper ways. And, you know, when we're called to step up to a new level, there can be like ambiguity of like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing or where I'm supposed to go or how I'm supposed to do that. And I feel like our intuition is really this key to getting out of all the conditioning of what we think we're supposed to be doing, and actually to know exactly what our heart and soul wants us to be doing and where we're supposed to go. So yeah, thank you so much for
just imagine, like, this is my parting inspiration to everybody. Imagine if everybody was making choices for themselves from this deep inner place and state of presence. And imagine if we were interacting with others and working with others from that place. So that's my vision of what's possible.
Yeah, I love that. I hold that vision with you. I think that, yeah, it'd be amazing if we're all tuning into our intuition and really listening to that, because that really accelerates everything in our life, and it makes things much easier and more clear with all of our interactions and all of our you know, our desires for where we're going and what we want to create. So yeah, thank you so much for this.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me talk about it.
Yeah. So how can people reach you and sign up for the free workshop?
Yeah, great. Thank you. So I will be posting, excuse me, a link to register in a flyer in Nazrah's Abundant Creators group. And I think we're going to put up a Facebook event as well. But, you know, feel free to friend me and message me on Facebook. I mean, I'd be happy. I do have a Facebook group. I'll post that too with the event. It's You Have a Superpower is the name of the Facebook group. And of course, there's my website, dyanferguson.com. So we'll post all that. But please feel free to just message me here if that's easy for you guys, whatever works.
Cool. Thank you so much. So appreciate you, and so happy to have you here. I really, really appreciate your time and your energy and your passion with this.
Thank you. It's been fun.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you all for being here with us. And yeah, and definitely check out the workshop. I think it's going to be really powerful for everybody in our community. So thank you all. Have a wonderful rest of your day. We'll see you later.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.